Well, welcome back to another edition of Bianchi Law Talk on Facebook Live on Sundays at 5 o'clock. Guys, I want to go over two updates of cases that I've been handling in the formal media, including the Law and Crime Network and on HLN and Fox News, and one that I'm going to continue to follow, and that's the screen behind me. That's Jayme Closs. And to the other side of me is David Patterson. You guys may have heard about this case. This one is a crazy one out of Wisconsin. That girl got off a school bus one day, and apparently this guy, David, decided that that was the day that he decided that she was going to be the person that he was going to abduct. This David Patterson had never been in trouble before. He led a pretty vanilla kind of life. People in high school really didn't even remember the guy that much. People that were friends of his, the few that he had, said that he was just a normal guy. Nothing on the radar, no mental health problems, no addiction problems. But nevertheless, this guy did some unbelievable planning to abduct poor Jayme, and it really is a horrific case. I can't wait to see how this case follows through the criminal justice system despite its horror. So after he decided to target her, on at least two occasions he went to the house, and he confessed to this, by the way. We're going to get to that in a minute. And planned on abducting her in the middle of the night, but got spooked away because of various people inside the house and lights on. He went to the house a third time with a shotgun, which he had gloves and masks and duct tape, and he had wiped off the ammunition all the way down to that detail, changed his license plates so that he couldn't be identified, that his DNA wouldn't be on anything. And the dog started barking, and Jayme, can you imagine? So I want you to put yourself in the place of this family as this is going on. Jayme gets up and goes to her parents' room. She says she sees somebody coming up the driveway. Dad goes downstairs. He sees a guy with a shotgun, must think he's a cop because he asks him for his identification. And with that, this animal just blew him away through the door, busted the door open, and killed the father. Jayme will tell you that at that point in time, Mom and her knew that the father was dead. They run into a bathroom and are calling 911, and they're hiding in a bathtub with the shower curtain pulled. This could happen to any of us, guys. This is this random. This is what's going on in the world today. And the guy and this Patterson goes up to the bathroom with the shotgun. In panic, you can imagine, and the mother and the kid tells the mother to duct tape the girl. The mother's trying to duct tape her mouth and can't. He puts the shotgun down. He duct tapes her, little Jayme's mouth there, and duct tapes her ankles and her wrists, and then shoots right in front of her, right in the head, the mother, and kills the mother. So now Jayme's lost her mom and lost her dad, and this animal's dragging her now through the house and through the blood, and then takes her and sticks her inside of his trunk, drives her about 2 hours to a remote location where he actually holds her up for 88 days, okay? When she gets to the house, he tells her to take her clothes off, throws the clothes in a plastic bag. We don't know anything that went on beyond that at that point in time, other than she was there for 88 days. He kept her in captivity. Even when people were coming over his house, he had a jerry rig so that she would have to hide underneath the bed, and he had weights and laundry bins and things like that so that he would know or hear if she tried to get up. And she was, of course, one time beaten because she tried to get out. Well, he was leaving the house at various points in time, and on the 88th day, he actually went to apply for a job. And when he applied for the job, on his job application, he wrote down as skills and traits of himself that he is a honest, hardworking person and that he is a quick learner. What he didn't learn was while he was away filling out that application, this courageous girl breaks through this barrier from underneath the bed, gets outside, and a dog walker, somebody's walking their dog, actually encounters her, and that hero takes her to her safety. Everybody had thought Jayme was killed, and God knows what else prior to being killed, but thank God at least Jayme is alive, despite the fact her two parents have been murdered right in front of her eyes, and mom literally right in front of her eyes. So David Patterson gets arrested. He goes to the police department and he gives a full confession. He tells the cops everything he did. Now, we don't know whether the legalities of that confession are going to be surviving in court or not, which gets to the point that I was asked by Mike Galanos on HLN TV this week. Did the prosecutor put too much in the arrest affidavit? So I'm going to take a little bit of a sidebar from the horror of the story and talk about tactical prosecutions. And so you guys understand, prosecutors are not allowed to try cases in the court of public opinion, but rather in a court of law. And there are ethics rules as to what you can and can't do. What we see with more and more frequency is prosecutors putting the entire case in the arrest affidavit. That's a very formal document. It's not hard to get, but they put every single fact in there that they can that makes it look bad for the defendant so that the public is aware of it. And by definition, if the public is aware of it, defense attorneys are going to be able to make an argument, you know it, down the road to say that the prosecutors poisoned the jury pool and that the defendant can't get a fair trial because of the public commentary of the prosecutor. And you know what? Listen, in some instances, put this guy aside. Prosecutors should be judicious in the manner in which they move forward with their cases so that you don't create appellate issues like this. For example, again, put this guy aside. What would happen if this confession gets thrown out? If the court finds that it was in violation of his right to remain silent or his right to an attorney? I don't know the facts and circumstances under which it came. I don't know if he was being beaten or not. Probably not, but who knows? And if it gets thrown out, the defense is going to even have a greater argument to say, well, the prosecutor poisoned the entire community by referencing a confession that ultimately a court threw out. It's just a practice that you should really, really avoid. And there was no need because the prosecutor easily could have gotten the arrest warrant, even if he just said a confession as opposed to going through chapter and verse of what he said. Just a little commentary there. You know, reasonable minds certainly can differ with regard to that. But this case, I was asked by Mike Galanos, what's the defense? The only possible defense I could possibly see in this case, which will not be successful in my mind, is insanity. So I want to take a moment to talk to you about the insanity defense because it's not what people think. It's not like the lay definition of insanity. Insanity means that you have a known mental health disease or defect that's recognized by the medical professionals, that you in fact suffered under that defect at the time of the incident, and that defect essentially makes you unable to appreciate the difference between right and wrong. In other words, you have no ability to be able to form an intent. That is what the definition of not guilty by reason of legal insanity means. That you did it, but you weren't able to form the mental components necessary in order to be guilty of a crime. I don't see that here because prosecutors will argue. I'll tell you how I used to do it in my homicide cases. Premeditated conduct before, 2 approaches to the house, which he left and then came back, detailed and meticulous manner in which he went about this, including changing the license plates, wiping off the ammunition for DNA, getting the mask, getting the gloves, getting the duct tape, modifying the vehicle so the lights wouldn't go on. This is very, very premeditated conduct. And then, of course, afterwards, abducting her for the 88 days shows a continued pattern of continuing with the commission of the crime. So at the time of the crimes are being committed, he was not of such a mental disease or defect that he could not appreciate the difference between right or wrong or the wrongfulness of his actions. So I think that defense fails. So guys, this is a case to follow. We'll be following it, I'm sure, again, on the Law and Crime Network and the other networks that I'm appearing on. I just can't wait to see how this case develops. And when I say that, somebody made a commentary when I said that this is what prosecutors live for, that was an outrageous comment. What is meant by these things is that if you are a prosecutor, these are the kind of families and victims that you want to bring justice to. It's not a victimless crime. It's not a shoplifting. It's not a criminal mischief. These are the people that you get that case and you just want to do the right thing and you want to make sure this man pays for what he has done to this girl and her family and the community, may I add. Now, last is an update on the Jason VanDyke case. That is the cop in Chicago who was convicted of shooting LaQuan McDonald. We covered that extensively on the Law and Crime Network. He was convicted, having shot him 16 times, a 16-year-old boy, 16 or 17, I think it was. And he has just been sentenced to 6 years in state prison on that manslaughter conviction. Jason VanDyke took the witness stand. I've talked about this in previous episodes if you want to take a look. I think it was a huge mistake. He did terribly, got convicted, but he kind of got a light sentence there. But as my friend Julio Briones, who I see is on the channel right now, has aptly told us, as he was a guest on my show when I was hosting at Law and Crime, the time for this police officer is going to be tough in the first place because he's a cop. But as Julio advised us, if it is true that LaQuan McDonald was a member of the gang, he is in some serious, serious trouble, because there will be a quote-unquote green light or hit order, I forget exactly what the term that Julio used, where they are going to try to take him out. So 6 years for that cop is like probably 20 years for anybody else. That is the result of that sentencing. Now, there was a companion part of that case, the Coverup Case, where a number of officers, 3 officers, were put on trial for covering up the Jason VanDyke shooting. Interestingly, the defense lawyers in that case chose only to go bench trial, not a jury trial. We've been debating that. My friends have been razzing me because I would never go with a bench trial, period, end of story. I've only done it once in my career as a defense lawyer. But nevertheless, the judge listened to all of the evidence that the prosecutor put forward to suggest that they were trying to cover up for Jason in VanDyke in terms of protecting him for that shooting, and that judge found those officers not guilty. And that was an interesting decision. Essentially, she did not agree, the judge did not agree, rather, with a female officer that took the stand on behalf of the prosecution, who was one of their main witnesses. She believed that that person was not telling the truth, among other things. And so that is how that case went. Terminate on sight. Thank you, Julio. That is the terminology, guys. If you're ever go to jail and you hear somebody say you have a TOS on you, or terminate on sight, you need to call your lawyer or your family or Julio Briones, because he consults people on what to do under those circumstances. So, guys, those are the Capelli cases. And Lucinda, I'm trying to see. Thank you for your compliment about the passion for the law that I have, and I do. I love this stuff. I've been doing it a long time. I say I've been practicing law since I was 5 years old, since my father is an 86-year-old still practicing lawyer, and I've always been going over his cases with him, so it's been a passion of mine. Thank you so much for that compliment. Hey, guys, listen, I'd love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Bianchi Law Talk, or if you haven't already, subscribe to Bianchi Law Talk on Facebook Live, and I'd really appreciate it if you could share this video. My last bit of advice to you, for those of you who are on the Northeast, is, man, I hope if you don't have to, don't go outside tomorrow, because, baby, it's going to be cold outside. Have a great week.